phone rang, and it was one of my friends, and my dad used to answer the phone, and he would come and tell me one of two things. He would either give me a one-line poem with the name of the caller in it, or he would give me a one-line poem with the name of the caller implied in it. And from the meaning of the name, I had to guess who was it in order to answer. So that's when I started to fall in love with the Arabic language, I think. And for the longest time, I forgot about it. I started learning in English. I went to school in English, and then at work. And then it was years later, speaking about this to a friend of mine, when I realized I miss thinking in Arabic. I miss creating connections and building metaphors and diverging, because the Arabic language itself, it's built on diverging. I'll explain to you in a moment how. So what happened is, I'm now on a mental treasure hunt, and I'm trying to find all the different gems in this language that helps me spring it off again in a different creative endeavor. So I will take you on a little journey with me, if you will. I'll give you a little bit about the Arabic. It's a Semitic language, and it comes from the Afro-Asiatic family. It is strongly linked to Hebrew and Aramaic, language of Jesus. Right now, it is one of the top 5 languages in the world, spoken by around 300 million people. And the basis of this language is based on roots and patterns. So all the verbs and nouns that you can ever use in this language can go down to a handful of 3- and 4-letter root words in which you diverge and create all the words that you can. So one thing about it, and the poetry is one of the main things that I fell in love with. And poetry in Arabic, it has a middle point between systematic and schematic symbolism. And let me explain to you how. Poetry was called the register of the Arab. You actually can trace all the historical events just reading the poems of great poets, and it could lead you up to the 5th century. This is when we're able to track it down. And from this reading, you can see that there is a systematic way in writing poetry. Not only it has an order of how you start and when, it was classified based on purpose. Are you giving a poetry in eulogy? Is it praise? Is it pride? Is it endurance? Is it love? So depending on this classification, you will be able to see the different events that happen at that time. Now, the other thing is, when creating a systematic poetry, the other thing is that there was a structure for it. So you have this one-line poem, and it has to be divided into 2 sections, 2 columns. Not only it rhymes at the end, it sometimes rhymes in the middle, but at the same time, it had to have a sound scale that fits every single line. By sound scale, it means you have to choose the word with the syllabus and then the vowels that fit the same rhythmic system in every single line. And this is how it was systematic. So in his youth, my dad, in the 30s and 40s in Palestine, he used to memorize hundreds of those 1- and 2-line poems in order to compete with poetry competition, hoping that he will be able to respond with the right line of poem, not only logically, so it answers the opponent's poem, but at the same time, it has the same sound scale. So what is poetry without metaphors? That cannot be just logic. There has to be a metaphoric. And metaphor in Arabic is a whole different science. Well, by different, I mean unique, because it is a standard phenomenon. You study it as you study the Arabic grammar. It cannot go without it. And you level up with creating metaphors. It has its own components, and based on how good you are in this language and how strong you become, you can go up the levels. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by levels. Linguistic loosely categorize the Arabic language into 3 levels. The first one, the basic, is understanding, reading, and writing Arabic fluently. That's a basic. Once you become fluent, then it becomes an eloquent. right? You are good in choosing the words that are beautiful, and they have to be beautiful, and then your sentences have to be beautiful. It cannot confuse the listener or reader. As you build up and as you become more precise in your word choice, you reach the highest level, which is rhetoric. Two things happen in rhetorics. Number one, you really become very precise in your sentence. Brevity is the soul of the wit at a rhetoric level. And the other part is you are really good in creating metaphors. So you're able to change the word positions and remove parts of the components and create metaphors, not only to compare an idea to another, but also you are able to explain a phenomena using a metaphor. So I'll give you an example of this kind of metaphors. If I want to put an image in your head and I say, when the sun dawned, that should give you an idea of, or that should give you an image of some sun rays that is coming out of darkness, and there's a transitional period, something is about to happen. I can use this as an Arabic metaphor, and I can tell you, when the girl dawned, that should give you an image of a beautiful, radiating girl coming out of fuzziness of people, and something wow is about to happen. And it makes perfect sense. So if you're leveling up with this language and with creating metaphors, sometimes, or the more that you think metaphorically, it becomes a mental model. This is how you think. Everything works metaphorically. And if all of us are sharing this way of thinking, it becomes a culturally embedded thinking process when we can, back and forth, rely on metaphors, not only in understanding new ideas, but also just, it's an everyday speech. Every other sentence there is a metaphor, and it just makes it more fun to listen to. So the last two pieces I want to tell you, I want to give you how a metaphor could be experientially grounded. When I tell you that this new project or this new thing that you are doing is like a watermelon, it should give you an idea that there are hidden aspects in it, and you don't know it will be red and delicious or white and tasteless. It's your luck. Or if it becomes really hard or really hard for you to understand the metaphor without understanding the culture, and I tell you, you are cumin. What does that mean? It's not a compliment. If you know culturally, cumin will only give off scent when it's crushed or grounded. So what I'm saying is that you will only play nice and you will do a good job if you are put under pressure or under very awkward predicaments. That's when you become human. So the last thing I will tell you, this is how it becomes. Last thing I will tell you, I'll give you a very short poem written by a famous modern Palestinian poet. His name is Mahmoud Darwish. And he says, "She does not love you. Your metaphors thrill her. She is thrilled by the river plunging in rhyme. She is thrilled by the union of lightning and sound in your rhyme." Thank you very much.